Hi everyone, Michelle here with a quick message before you get into listening to this episode. This episode features a special guest named Sara, and Sara is the host of the Bold, Beautiful Borderline podcast. As you're listening to the episode, you will hear Kate and I talk about also being guests on her podcast episode. And we wanted to let you know that that episode has officially been released. So if you want to hear us continue the conversation with Sara on her podcast, check out the Bold, Beautiful Borderline podcast wherever you listen. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy this episode.
This episode contains material that might be triggering for some. If you need to stop the podcast at any time to take care of yourself, please do so.
If you need support, you can call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 988. Dialectical behavior therapy was created in the 1980s by Marsha Linehan in Seattle, Washington.
Today, DBT is taught all over the world.
We're two therapists who believe everyone can benefit from DBT skills.
I'm Kate.
I'm Michelle.
And this is DBT and me.
Hello, everybody. Hello. Today is a fun, unusual recording day for a variety of reasons. To let you all into behind the scenes, we are not recording at our usual time of day. Kate and I are recording also with a special guest who we will be sharing more about shortly. And we are all three recording together later than usual.
Yes.
After we have all had pretty long days.
Yes.
So it's going to be fun. I'm also recording at my office, which I don't normally do. So crossing my fingers that the sound quality in here is going to be decent. So all kinds of fun things going on.
How much fun?
Yeah, so much fun. But our topic for today is one that I'm super excited to talk about with our guest, Sara, because we're going to be talking all about her journey with getting diagnosed with BPD and really how to, I would say more or less like, embrace your BPD diagnosis if you listening are also an individual who's been diagnosed with BPD or suspect you may have some BPD traits. We've talked about this often on the podcast, that there can be a lot of stigma around a borderline personality disorder diagnosis, probably more than almost any other mental health diagnosis out there. And Kate and I are all about destigmatizing BPD. So that's really what we're going to be going deeper into today, which will be fantastic. But before we do, when we were thinking about what do we want to spotlight for promotion this month, I recently was asked to read and review a book written by somebody who is a therapist herself with a BPD diagnosis. And the book is called Talking About BPD Workbook. So I'm going to put a link to that in the show notes, post about it in our Facebook group, all the things so you can find it. The author's name is Rosie Cappuccino. Love the last name. I think it's super fun. And the way that she wrote about BPD made it so easy to understand, so compassionate. She shares a lot personally, but the workbook is like not a long read and gives some great exercises to do. So I was really honored when I was asked to write a review for the book, and it felt really awesome to read it and love it and be able to write a review that was super real to how I truly felt reading the book. I was like, this is now the book I'm going to recommend to all the clients I know with a BPD diagnosis. So you can get your hands on that if you're interested. And then, as always, Kate and I like to mention and remind folks that we have a book in the world as well. It's DBT for everyone. So just in case you have not read/listened to, if you like audiobooks, our book yet, you can also find the link for that in the show notes and get a copy of that as well. So, moving into introducing our guest, Sara, I would love for you, before we dive into asking you all the questions we have, to just share with our listeners a little bit about you to kick things off.
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here. I don't know what to say about myself. I'll say what I always tell my new clients. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, so my new therapy clients, I always say, I'm a queer millennial who has ADHD, and that's important to note. That's important to note because it will inform the therapy relationship with me. That's about what I tell people. So I don't know what else to add. I have borderline personality disorder and variety of other things that come with being, a person that lives with mental illness. But first and foremost, I'm a dog mom, and yeah, that's me.
Yeah, love that. I think Kate was chuckling at your introduction because Kate's like, that's how I could introduce myself.
It's true. Yeah, I'm like, that is, check. So that was funny.
Yep.
Also dog mom. So I'm excited at our overlap.
Lots of similarities between the two of you. Yeah. I'll also say we'll make sure to mention how listeners can find you when we get to the end of the episode. Mm-hmm. But Sara also hosts the Bold, Beautiful Borderline podcast, which is really exciting. So Sara's here today being a guest for us, of course. And then soon enough, Kate and I will also be guests on her podcast. Very exciting. We're really excited to both enter each other's podcasting worlds.
And I did want to say also, Michelle, that while, obviously this whole episode is focused on and most supportive of BPD diagnoses and folks who are living with that. And also, not the only mental health issue that's stigmatized. Or anyway, I'm just saying, I think that people will be able to pull lots of good things from this episode, even if they don't happen to be part of, I know, the large swath of our audience that does. I was just thinking and other things too, even if we're not explicitly saying it. So that was all.
Yeah, I'm actually really, really glad that you mentioned that, because I think some of the things we're going to be asking Sara about today could certainly apply to anybody who's been diagnosed with a mental health diagnosis and could find themselves struggling with it, or maybe feels actually really good about it, but has loved ones who are maybe less than supportive and
maybe come from cultural backgrounds. Yeah, the therapy or the diagnoses aren't normatized, things like that. Normatized. That's not a word. What the fudge buckets? Normalized. There we go.
Normalized. There we go. Yeah, perfect.
Making stuff up. That's how excited and longer days have been, guys. Making new words.
Exactly. Yes. So let's get into questions. Sara, there are two questions that we always ask all of our guests. I'm going to ask the first one and then turn it over to Kate to ask you the second one before we get into more personalized questions for you. But first question to start things off, when did you first come across DBT and what drew you to it? What did you like about it?
Yeah, I can't answer this without saying, and maybe this will be in one of your other questions, but I was diagnosed with borderline when I was 23, and it was suggested to me over the years to participate in a full IOP program for DBT, but I didn't enter an IOP program for DBT until I was 26 and in my first marriage. So truly introduced to DBT in terms of full fidelity when I was 26. I had learned about DBT in grad school, but I don't know if your degrees are social work degrees, but you get a high level overview and that's about it in graduate school. So 26, I've met a lot of people who were able to access DBT at a much younger age, and it really changed the trajectory of their mental health. And I wish that I had been able to, but 26 is still reasonably young in the grand scheme of development. So I'm grateful that I got it when I got it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And when you went through that IOP program for DBT, which is really going into the deep end of the pool, all the DBT, like you said, a full fidelity program where you were meeting with an individual therapist, a group, and folk coaching, I'm guessing all the things that come with that. What were your initial thoughts about DBT? Did you like it right away, or were you kind of like, I'm not so sure?
I don't remember what my initial thoughts about DBT in particular were, but I was kind of at a place where my therapist was like, Sarah, it's time. Like, you can't keep doing what you're doing and think that you're going to survive this. So I think that, I don't know if hopeful was the right word that I was experiencing, but kind of like it has to get better than it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep. Totally.
Yeah. I can definitely connect with a lot of that. And as you talk about, wishing you could have gotten exposed to DBT younger, I was feeling a lot of gratitude for the fact that, of all strange things, my aunt in California saw like a TV interview or TV special about Marsha Linehan. And my mom knows no normal social limits. And so my mom's just like, hey, you want to see my daughter? It was fascinatingly hilarious. Anyway, I ended up being able to get into a DBT program. Marcia laughed at my mother, but I did end up in a DBT program at 19, and I'm so grateful
Wow.
that I got that intercession then, because it was just blind weird luck that my aunt saw a TV thing. It's like, I think Kate would benefit from this. So, yeah, I'm super grateful, because otherwise I think it would have been, that TV special hadn't happened, or whatever it was, I would have been a lot longer before I actually had gotten exposed and seen fit to go there. So, yeah.
Yeah,
super
that's
grateful.
incredible.
So let's see, the second half of the question that we always ask folks is, what's your favorite thing and also your least favorite thing about DBT?
Dialectics.
Yep, dialectics.
Sure. That's a hard question. DBT has its limitations, right? Like, it's not if what you're wanting is to change your thinking patterns, it's going to be really hard to do that with dialectical behavioral therapy at times. That's not to say that the skills used get us closer to being able to do that, but I find that it's very challenging to change my thinking patterns. So that would be, I guess, my least favorite, but I don't know that that's a great answer, because I can't say that I have a least favorite part of DBT because I love it so much.
Oh, come on. You have to admit, nobody likes the PL and please. Nobody likes that. No one likes
fair.
it.
That's fair.
I mean, the idea is great, but whoever thought that treat physical illness should be represented by the letters P and L? I'm just,
Yeah, and like, I don't always want to exercise, you guys. Like, that's just not always for me. Intense exercise and the tip skill, not for me.
Nope.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, I'm just there's some, I think, reasonable least favorites. The comparison and accepts. I get booed half the time sometimes with that one. I have to be real careful how I teach. I'm like, it can be good. Let me show you. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess my favorite part of DBT is that it gave me a kind of formula or structure for how to work with the way that my symptoms present in ways that no other modality had given me before. Like, you could have never presented the concept of fact checking to me outside of DBT and had it make sense. Like, I really needed that linear fashion for understanding that.
That makes sense.
And I think like having gotten to go into a full program, being like immersed in it and being around other people who spoke that language, like, I feel like there's a pretty big community in the world of DBT that I really appreciate and love. And if you are working with, I say working with, I got to take my therapist hat off for a second. if you are someone that uses DBT and you're hanging out with another person, or another person uses language that's in the DBT world, then you can kind of assume that they're like your people, right? Like, oh, you get emotion dysregulation. Like, so you're not going to freak out when I freak out because you're used to the freak out.
Yeah. That's a perfect way to put it.
Yeah, I love that. It makes me think of one of the things I was talking about with a client recently, that how having BPD, that one of the things that can come from that is a amazing resilience, right? To like high emotionality in yourself and others. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. Okay, so taking us back, Sarah, when did you first start seeing signs that you could have a BPD diagnosis? Like, even if you had never heard of BPD, didn't know what it was, when you think back in your history, when did some of those early signs start becoming apparent for you?
Yeah. I mean, this is where we could have the genetics versus environment discussion all day long, right? Because, like,
Yep.
I don't remember this, but I didn't sleep through the night until I was 5 years old. Not once did I sleep through the night. And my mom would, like, sit up and cry with me. She would just cry with me for 5 years until I was 5 years old, because I couldn't soothe and I couldn't be soothed, right? How fascinating is that? Like, that's very fascinating that a child that young couldn't be soothed by their primary caregiver. What does that tell us? But I mean, thinking to when I could remember, I have really, really strong memories in childhood, like young childhood, of like not being included with other kids and having really big emotions about that. So like, 6, 7, 8, grade school. But then like I started self-harming when I was really young. I remember like writing on my headboard before I was like 10 years old, I want to die. And, it's like, it's so dramatic. I have to laugh at it. If I don't laugh at it, I'm going to just like cry, hysterically, because a child that young wanting to die is devastating. And then I experienced the first suicide in my family when I was 11. And so that really like broke open the symptoms, right? Like everything got really big after 11 years old.
Yeah. Do you feel comfortable sharing what some of those things were that got bigger for you, like during your teen years, and what happened?
Yeah, I mean, suicidal ideation got huge, right? Because I was 11 and then 18 and then 26 when my 3 uncles died by suicide. But there was also like some close friends that were sprinkled in there as well. And you sit with this like, well, what is life and what's the purpose of it if other people can so easily just exit it? That almost became like a coping strategy for me of just like constantly wanting to die. My interpersonal relationships went to hell in a handbasket when I was a teenager, right? Just like I guess maybe the favorite person thing I experienced once or twice, but like I would have back-to-back relationships and a lot of inappropriate sex and cheating on this boy with this girl and cheating on with this girl with this boy. And like all of that kind of impulsivity was happening a lot when I was younger. So I am what you would say like a classic, in air quotes, borderline kind of presents as like very big emotions, a lot of suicidal ideation, a lot of self-harm. I still struggle with that. And really difficult interpersonal effectiveness.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for sharing so openly about it. It's a nice, I don't know, it's refreshing. I don't think we encounter terribly many people who are just grounded and normalizing about having gone through things like that. So yeah, appreciate how you talk about things, including talking about still struggling with self-harm. Me too. It's gonna be exciting. I don't know. I'm really excited to be on your podcast also. Sorry.
I can't wait to have you.
All right. What was your initial reaction when you first learned about BPD, right? So it sounds like your youth was pretty heavily living in BPD, but do you remember when you first heard about it as a diagnosis, or maybe started realizing that you might meet criteria? What were your first experiences of it?
I first learned about borderline in graduate school, so it's 23.
Okay.
And it was presented to me in a very typical academic fashion, which is to say that it was traumatizing.
Yeah.
Yes, very heavily stigmatized. One of my professors said that their least favorite client to work with was the young, what did he say? Young bisexual borderline girl. And I was like, well, check. Hello, sir. But I didn't know that yet, right? So that was like, that was in the back of my head. And then I met with a psychiatrist that same year, a couple months later, who was like, in the first appointment, like, you have this thing called borderline personality disorder. And I just started bawling because I was like, I know what that is and you hate me. You know, I'm your least favorite client to work with.
Yeah.
Prior to that, I had done, you know, like the very typical, like, I think you might have bipolar disorder, but I don't think you have bipolar disorder thing. And I didn't find out that I had ADHD until I was 28 or 29. So that late stage diagnosis, they say, didn't understand the ways in which my ADHD and my BPD like really impact each other a lot. And that would have been nice to know.
Absolutely. Michelle, you're on to the next one. I was going to keep going with something.
I am. I just can't help but call out, though, I feel like all the similarities between the two of you, right?
So
Because
many.
Kate's also late stage diagnosed.
Yep. It's with ADHD
and all the things.
Yep. So many things.
So it's just really cool to see the similarities. So yeah, you reach this point where, you met with someone, they tell you, hey, you know, I think you qualify for a BPD diagnosis. And then after that, like, what was it like to talk about that and share it with family and friends? Like, what were their responses when you told them? And like, if any of their responses have been negative, how have you handled that?
Yeah, I didn't. So, as in I didn't share. My partner at the time when I was diagnosed knew and was like, okay, that makes sense. And then my ex-wife, who I met a couple years later, I told, and that was, you know, that was okay until it wasn't okay. But along the way, like, I started my podcast in 2020. So I was just going through a divorce with my ex-wife, and I was 28 at the time. And that was really the first time where I ever said out loud to anybody, like, I have borderline personality disorder. And that was part of why I wanted to start the podcast. I think I had mentioned it once to my mom, but I don't remember that conversation. I hadn't talked to my dad about it. I hadn't talked to my brother about it. There's still like best friends that I have that only know that I have borderline because I have a podcast called Borderline, like, that I've never said that to. So I think in my life with friends, maybe 3 people, and it's only been in the last few years, have I said I have BPD. People know, obviously, because I have this podcast, but I have not had those conversations with people, mostly because of just a profound sense of shame, right? I mean, like, this is not a fun thing to live with. And I don't want to face the stigmas of what you, the collective you, think about me because of this label that's been given to me. Like, if my professor says I'm their least favorite person to work with, right? Like, what is my best whoever going to say? Yeah. So it's been a journey to get there, but I'm slowly getting to a place where I talk about it with people in the real world. Much easier to talk about behind a microphone.
Yeah, I could relate to that. I mean, I feel like there are so many things that Kate and I talk about on the podcast sometimes, especially our other podcast, The Couch and the Chair, where we do a lot more personal sharing. That's like, oh, I don't actually know if I've really talked about this with very many other people before. And I think I just really want to say, like, I appreciate you naming what it's been like to, you know, I guess basically not share it with a whole lot of people personally, because when we're talking about the idea of like somebody coming to terms with their own diagnosis, like, I think that's a very like internal, like individualized process to reach a point where you even feel comfortable with it with yourself, to then feel comfortable sharing it with other people. There's no timeline for that. Some people, I think, do that very quickly, and some people it looks really different, and that it's okay for, you know, our listeners to think about, and like, it's all right if you don't want to share it with anybody. It's okay if you don't feel ready. You can still like be working on being okay with it within yourself, and you not sharing it far and wide does not reflect that like you need to I guess have that as a goal. That does not need to be a goal to be like, well, eventually I need to get to the point where I do talk about it with other people. No, not necessarily. Like that's just so unique for everyone. So I'm really appreciative of you sharing where you're at with that.
Yeah. Yeah, there was this, because I have shared my podcast through Instagram, there was this other social worker who reached out to me who was like, hey, come to OHSU and train on BPD, right? So I'm like, okay, well, I can't turn that down. It's OHSU. Yeah. And so I did a training, and in my intro, I was like, you know what? Can I swear on your podcast?
Yes. Oh,
absolutely.
Okay.
Oh
okay,
my gosh.
great.
Have I not sworn yet? That's amazing.
I was like, what did I say? But I think I didn't say this obviously in my training, but I was like, fuck it. Like, I'm never going to talk to any of these other social workers again. In my intro, I was like, I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I'm here to talk to you about borderline. And, I might as well say it. I also live with borderline. Yeah. And it's funny because I have thought about that training for like a year and a half, which is like such profound feelings of like embarrassment and shame. And like, they must have thought I was crazy, and they must have like questioned why they paid me the money to do this and not taken me seriously and all of these things. Like, what would it have been like if I had just not shared that? And I don't know what the answer to that is, but yeah, it's a journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think you shared it beautifully, honestly, like just in that way of like, I'm here to talk about this, and I also live with this. And I believe anyways that having that lived experience legitimizes even further what you're going to say, because it's not just that you have the professional knowledge of it. Yeah. Like you really understand it from the inside out. Yeah, so I think it's awesome.
Yeah. No, I was just going to continue with that and say that I am a high self-disclosure therapist. Also high self-disclosure boss, high self-disclosure friend, really just high self-disclosure pretty much wherever I'm hanging out. I think I didn't really learn to mask very well, but the reflections that I've gotten from both colleagues and employees and clients has almost exclusively been positive, that it's rapport building, that it gives credence to what I've been saying, like Michelle has talked about, and that it builds in them a sense of safety and willingness to consider the idea that you can, I don't know, be mentally ill and also a therapist, etc. Right? And so honestly, I guess I can't speak for those people, but the people, when I'm always like, oh, am I doing this wrong? The feedback when I just ask people, because again, I don't do well with the not things and stuff. But yeah, the feedback is pretty consistently pretty good. So yeah, I think you're doing pretty big favors to everybody in that room, at least.
Yeah, well, who knows?
All right, where are we? There we are. Sorry, find myself in the notes. So yeah, I'll be curious to hear how the similarities maybe keep stacking up. When you went through DBT as a participant, how did it impact you? Like, yeah, what? I know you mentioned feeling some sort of sense of like hope potentially or hopefulness in it. Yeah, what else was the experience like, and how did it impact you? What was your main takeaway from the experience?
Oh man, how did DBT impact me? Well, I remember when my therapist was like, Sarah, it's time, you need to do this. And I surrendered. I'm also 3.5 years sober. So that concept of surrender is, Kate, are you also sober?
No, but
okay.
But I just heard the language. I love that, like the surrender language. I can recognize like some of that in there.
Yeah, I was wondering, is there another similarity here?
That would be amazing. I sometimes feel like my self-harm lives in a similar sort of space, but not technically.
Yeah. My therapist told me, you're going to walk into this room and you're going to get pissed off. Like someone is going to piss you off, Sarah, and it's your responsibility to, if nothing else, just stay in the chair. And that's something that I pass along to my clients now when they're going into IOP. Like, you're going to be in a room with 6 to 10 other people who are dysregulated, and they're going to dysregulate you, and you have to stay in the chair. Yeah. And I remember there were moments where I was dysregulated. There was a moment where someone just flat out asked me in front of 5 or 6 other people, like, do you have borderline? And I remember thinking, like, fuck you, lady. Like, I don't know you. How dare you ask me about this thing? So there were moments like that stand out in my memory, but there were also moments where things clicked and I was like, oh, I see. Like my emotions don't have to be based in reality and that's okay. But what I do with them is sometimes not okay, and trying to figure out how to like branch those two. So that was really powerful. This is funny. It was also like, there was also a moment, I wasn't married very long, such a borderline thing to do, right? And also a classic U-Haul for all the queers listening.
Fast turnaround, huh?
Yeah, there's a family night in DBT, or there's a family portion of DBT, right? And my ex-wife declined to participate. And that was like a good indicator for me of like, oh, like there's this disconnect between the work that you're willing to do and the work that your spouse is willing to do. And like, you don't have to like live with that too. So that was a really big defining moment for me, that like our skills can only take us so far, that we also have to have people and partners and friends that are willing to like learn and speak this DBT language with us. And without that, like I can't have functional relationships.
Yeah.
So my partner, my husband, went through DBT on his own, like before ever meeting me. And he doesn't have borderline. He has ADHD and he's autistic. He just happened to find a DBT therapist who would write his letter for top surgery for him. And I was like, wait a minute, I know that DBT therapist. She worked at Portland DBT. And he was like, yeah, I've been doing DBT for years. And so like, I really learned that I need people in my life that also are familiar with DBT.
Yeah, that's great. And such a contrast in your relationships.
Yeah.
Right. And like, yeah, that tells you a lot, I think, with the question about family and friends and loved ones and their reactions. I think that is something that, when a diagnosis is shared, whether it's BPD or any other diagnosis, how do the people in your life show interest and curiosity in that, and a willingness to recognize that, like, just because you are the individual receiving that diagnosis, that does not mean that it's all on you to be the only person to learn about it and do something about it. We could say like, that everybody can benefit in your life from learning about it, exploring it, recognizing, oh, like with this diagnosis at play, how does that impact our relationship? What can I change to maybe be more considerate of this person I love who has this diagnosis? And so I'm so glad you have that with your husband. That's great. So you mentioned a little bit ago with your podcast, you wanted to start it because you really had not shared with a lot of people that you had received, a BPD diagnosis. And so then you started the podcast in 2020, right when we started ours too. We've been podcasting the same amount of time, which is pretty cool. But I guess I'm curious, like, why podcasting for you? Like, what made you decide I really want to just sit in front of this mic and start talking to people? And what were you hoping would be the impact on your listeners when you started your podcast?
Yeah, originally, it was when my mom was one of 7, right? 3 of her brothers have died by suicide. So the third death was 2018. And I was really sitting with this question of like, why the fuck do people stay alive? Like, if I hate having to be alive and then I'm seeing all these people decide not to live, like, what is the purpose of all of this? And so I was like, I want to get at the root of why people want to stay alive. Like, I want to talk to people about why they're still here and why they're staying alive. And so the wanting to have conversations and knowing I can't just like pluck random people off the street, like, oh, I've got to do this by Zoom, right? Like, I've got to meet all these different people. It just kind of naturally led me to podcasting. I think I was also listening to a lot of podcasts. Like, I listen to a lot of podcasts now. Not mental health podcasts. Oh my God. No.
You're in that world every day.
Yeah. No. So yeah, that was why. And then, I mean, of course, it's 2020 You know, I got divorced, sold my house, bought a van. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. And so naturally podcasting just got thrown in there.
Yeah, perfect addition to the mix of what was going on.
I was going to say to the millennial resume. I don't know.
Yes.
I think millennial ADHD podcast, I don't know, seem to go well together also.
They go together. Yep.
As someone who was a recipient of DBT before I was other things, I know that really you can be like, well, all of them have a place, except for the ones I hate. No, I'm joking. But what are your most, embedded go-to DBT skills that you get the most benefit from? Like, what's the most, habitual and return on investment skill for you?
My ROI skills. That's cute. I'm going to use that. Fact checking, as I mentioned before, that was the first skill that I think really like clicked for me when I was in DBT. Yeah. And so it's one of the easiest ones that I've brought with me. The tip skill, I use the tip skill a lot for distress tolerance. Stop skill and the tip skill, I use those very frequently. I have a cold plunge that I built because I need to use the tip skill. Yeah. So that's kind of, again, dramatic. Like borderlines don't do anything small. I can't just use an ice cube. I have to have a fucking bath of ice. But probably also wise mind. I try to ask wise mind what's up a lot.
I love it now, but I will say that I got so annoyed as a participant because my instructors, at least, were just anything that came out of our mouths. I swear to goodness, it was just met with, and what did your wise mind say? Did you ask your wise mind? Have you checked with your wise mind? What did your wise mind? It was like I was like, stop! I know. So I got it really drilled into me, but that's how it sticks. So, but I do remember as a 19-year-old being just fucking fed up with being asked that question. I like those.
Also, it's like we can't shame ourselves for not using the skills, even if we know the skills, right? Yeah. Like that's not going to help us.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep. Back when, Kate still leads groups, but Kate and I led DBT groups together for many years. And so on our diary card, we would ask people to put down, did they think about a skill, attempt it, or successfully use it? And I think sometimes people would feel, so much shame and like, well, I didn't actually use it. And that's why it's so important to us to include like, but you thought about it.
Yeah.
Like, that's a win.
You remembered its existence.
Somewhere in your brain. It's a great starting point because it does take so much practice to actually start using skills with any amount of regularity. So I'm curious to know too, with the listeners that we have, because I think the way that a lot of people find our podcast, it's probably actually the exact same route that they go to find yours as well, Sarah, is like somebody maybe hears, oh, I have this thing called BPD. What now? Like, what do I do? And so they kind of stumble into DBT because, of course. And so for our listeners out there who may be newly diagnosed with BPD, like what recommendations do you have for them? Like not even necessarily DBT skills related recommendations, but just general things that you think could be really encouraging for them to hear, or like if they do want to talk about it with other people in their life, like any thoughts on how they could approach that too?
Well, my very first thought is don't go on Reddit. That's not going to get you anywhere. Don't read any of the books that are recommended to you for the most part. Like, do not get Stop Walking on Eggshells and I Hate You, Please Don't Leave Me. Like, do not buy those fucking books. Don't let anyone in your life buy those books. So there's a lot, especially if you're working with like an older therapist, there's some things that will be recommended that I would say don't follow through with that, unfortunately. If you want to talk to the people in your life about it, honestly, I would find a peer support group before I did that probably. Like hang out with some peers and see what's worked for them. Even just like drop into one Emotions Matter peer support group one time and ask the question, what's the best way for me to talk to my family and my friends about this? That's not to say that you can't talk to your friends and your family first. If you feel safe doing that, that's fabulous. Yeah. But if you don't feel like comfortable and safe, or you're not sure how to have that conversation, there are peer support groups out there that are free for people with BPD, and they're online and you can find them. So I think that trying to build a community of people with BPD in a safe way with boundaries is really important. Don't go looking for a favorite person. That's not going to get you anywhere.
Yeah. Slippery slope.
It is. I like the internet is really messy. But yeah, peer support. I run into quite a lot of med stigma in my journey. Like, I'm pretty heavily medicated. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't know it by my emotions and behavior. But like, have a meaningful conversation with a provider about medications, because they can be a really helpful tool.
I like that. This sort of, I don't know, really dovetails from that a bit, right? Like Michelle was talking about, it's not uncommon for anybody who manages to stumble across the idea of BPD in their lives to then stumble almost equally quickly upon DBT, because they're so consistently tied together. How do you suggest folks sort of approach the notion of or start exploring DBT such that it doesn't like overwhelm them? I know that sometimes it can feel like a bit of drinking from a fire hose, or a little bit of where do I even start? So yeah, do you have an approach you like to recommend?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good question. From an accessibility perspective, if you Google like list of DBT skills and you watch a video on one DBT skill a day or one DBT skill a week, that's like, invaluable information, and doesn't require a provider, something that you can do on your own, free resource you can take anywhere with you. What was your question again?
Oh yeah, just how do you have a suggested approach for people when they start exploring DBT such that it can, I don't know, be useful but not overwhelming? I know sometimes people are like, I bought 3 books, I listened to 7 podcasts, I read on Reddit. I don't know. So yeah, do you have an approach that you like to suggest?
Yeah, I would say just learning one skill at a time is really effective. But then like the more that you teach the skills to other people, the more it reinforces them for you. So like teaching your partner, for example, I just learned the stop skill. Let's go through this together and talk about what it looks like and how we can do this. And like, can you remind me to use the stop skill in a way that is like loving and kind and not anything else than loving and kind?
Mm-hmm. I like it.
That's a really good suggestion, to talk about it with other people. That's something that maybe we've said it at some point in time on the podcast. We often advise people, like you were saying, one skill at a time. Don't try to use all the skills at once, kind of a thing. But the idea of once you feel like you've gotten a kind of basic sense of like what the skill is, then share it with other people, and then it helps you remember to use it. Yeah, it helps cement it for you. They may be more likely to use it with you, or I really like that suggestion a lot. All right, final question here. Kind of a big one, I feel like. But when you are having really hard days, as we all do, but you have gone through some periods of your life, like you were talking about today, where like things felt very hopeless for you. What would you share with our listeners to like inspire them to keep going when they're at that point for themselves and things feel like insurmountable, or just like, I'm never going to get through this? Like, what's helped you that you can pass on to them?
I mean, other than a sense of obligation that you have to fucking do this. That's a very hard question to answer.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, my 2 core values are to be in service of others and to go seek joy, right? And seeking joy is like a very intentional language. Like it doesn't just happen. We have to absolutely go create it. So if it's been a while since you've like been outside and like been on a trail or touched the earth, if it's been a while since you've created art, if it's been a while since you've done that thing that like helps you feel joy, then like go do that thing even when you don't want to. You're not going to want to because you're like as low as it can be. This is the behavior activation piece of like, you don't want to do the thing, but if you do the thing works.
Yeah.
So go try that. For me, that's to be outside on a trail and to be with my dog. It gets worse in isolation, right? So like, don't isolate yourself.
Oh, I like
Awesome.
that.
Cool.
Yeah, the A of ABC a little bit to me. That's what I sounds like. So yeah, I like that one. Seeking joy is important.
It is. So Sarah, a couple things that we're going to share with our listeners. Sarah's website for the podcast is boldbeautifulborderline.com. And then also people can find you on Instagram at boldbeautifulborderline. And we'll post links to those in the show notes and in the Facebook group and all that good stuff. Is there anything else that you want to share with our listeners for ways they can like connect with you or just other resources that you think could be helpful for them? And if not, that's all good because I know I probably just hit on the main two.
Yeah, those are the main two. I mean, I will say I'm always excited to meet people who want to be on the podcast and share their experience. So if anyone listening is like, I really want to talk about my experience with borderline, you can email me, boldbeautifulborderline@gmail.com. Would love to host people's experiences. But yeah, you hit the main ones.
Perfect. Awesome. That's great to know how people can get a hold of you by email. Yeah, that's cool to have some of our listeners then maybe be future guests on your podcast.
That would be pretty fun. All right. Then I guess it is just time to roll into the closing moment. Sarah, I just want to take a second before I go into that to both thank you again for coming here, sharing so earnestly, and renew my statement of excitement to record with you. It'll be fun.
Yay. Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay. Let's take a second to just get comfortable in our body as much as we can. Find a position that feels sustainable and supported. It might look like sitting down, laying down, standing, whatever feels good and right in your body in this moment. Once you've found that position, if you're safe and feel comfortable doing so, I invite you to close your eyes. To begin with, we're just going to notice our breath. You don't need to breathe any more slowly or any more deeply than you are naturally. It's just about tuning in, really focusing in on the rhythms and the sensations of your breath and letting them welcome you into your body and into the present moment. So for today's exercise, I'd like you to take a moment and in your mind's eye, imagine yourself sitting somewhere outside on a park bench or maybe on a porch swing, somewhere that's pretty and calm and comfortable. And just take a moment to bring that image to mind, add in any other sensory information that you want to help it feel present and real. Once you've imagined your porch swing or park bench and have yourself sitting there, I'd like you to take a moment and conceive of your, we'll say, primary or most present mental health issue or diagnosis. We've been talking today about BPD, certainly as an option, but it could be anything: depression, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, ADHD. Just take a moment and pick one that impacts you and that maybe you have a fraught relationship with. And take a moment to embody that diagnosis in your imagination. It can be in the shape of a person or an animal or maybe a cloud or color. Whatever your mind does with it, there's no right or wrong answers here. But take a moment to conceptualize of that diagnosis in a way that you can see and interact with, and imagine it sitting on the park bench next to you. Once you and your diagnosis are sitting together on the bench, I'd like you to turn towards it and just for a moment, see if you can approach it with curiosity and compassion. Maybe asking it what it wants from you. The answer may be nonsensical or irrational or totally unachievable, but even so, can you take a moment to listen? To hear it out, to give it the respect of your attention. Maybe take a moment to ask it what it needs. Maybe take a moment to explore what it wishes it were, or wishes it could do, or wishes your life might look like. Maybe your diagnosis has a lot to say on these subjects. Maybe it's near silence. Maybe the answers are chaotic. There's no right or wrong way for these to show up. In this moment, it's just about being, and being with. And being with in that mindful, non-judgmental sort of way. When you feel as though you've asked your diagnosis whatever it is that you might want to ask of it, take a moment to validate, to reassure, to offer some sort of kindness. This might look like agreeing to some of the things it asked if they were reasonable suggestions or requests. It might look like simply an acknowledgement of its pain or its own struggles. It might just look like reaching out and holding its proverbial hand or putting an arm around it and offering it your quiet presence and support. Just for this moment. No matter how it has sat in your world up till this moment, can you take this time to be with it in this kind and non-judgmental way? And see how it feels. Notice what, if any, new thoughts or emotions or bodily sensations have come up over the course of the conversation. Remembering again that there's no right or wrong answers. When you feel ready, like you have had your spot for curiosity and your moment of connection, I invite you to begin to let the whole scene unravel and fade in your mind's eye. And invite you to take a moment to gently and intentionally come back into your body and into the room. You might do 2 or 3 slower, deeper breaths. Do some gentle stretching, maybe rotating your neck or ankles, wrists, or shoulders. And whenever you and your body feel ready, you can open your eyes. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
To learn more about us and the DBT skills we're teaching each week, join our Facebook group. Simply log in to your Facebook profile and search for DBT and Me podcast.